Did you know that a single tree can absorb as much as 48 pounds of carbon dioxide per year? Imagine the impact millions of commuters could have on the environment by not traveling to work every day. In the next few minutes, we'll delve into how the shift to remote work is reshaping our environmental footprint. Stay tuned as we explore the unseen effects of this global workplace revolution on the environment. The COVID-19 pandemic hits, and suddenly, we're all part of the biggest remote work experiment ever. Before we know it, digitalization isn't just a buzzword anymore. It's our new normal. Working in pajamas? Yep, that's us. From a mere 5% to a whopping 37%, Americans working from their living rooms, kitchens, and let's be honest, sometimes from bed, became the trend almost overnight. Now, as we're slowly stepping out of the pandemic shadows, companies are playing mix and match with different remote work styles. And guess what? According to the latest scoop, 76% of folks working from home reckon their bosses are cool with them continuing this way. Even more awesome, 91% of these remote warriors are saying, "Yep, sign me up for more of this hybrid or full-on remote work lifestyle." It's like the whole work game is changing, and we're here for it. Remember when COVID-19 lockdowns meant no more daily commutes? A lot of us thought, hey, working from home might just be the ticket to a greener planet. And for a while, it looked like we were onto something. During those lockdowns, all the changes in how we worked, shopped, and moved around actually slashed global CO2 emissions by a massive 17% in April 2020 compared to the high levels we saw in 2019. Pretty cool, right? But hold on, it wasn't all permanent sunshine and rainbows. This eco-friendly trend sort of fizzled out faster than we hoped. Even though fewer people are going into the office now, our emissions have crept back up, almost touching those pre-pandemic levels again. So, it turns out, the road to a greener world is a bit more complicated than just ditching the daily commute. Now, the big question arises. Is remote work better for the environment? Let's find out. Energy footprint. So, when it comes to the impact of working from home on our energy use, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some studies are giving it a thumbs up, saying it's good for the planet, but others? Not so much. They're saying it's either not making much difference or, yikes, even making things worse. It's a case of it depends. Why the confusion, you ask? Well, it turns out a lot depends on who's working from home. Like, what's their home setup like? Are they in a tiny apartment or a big house? And then there are things outside our control, like the weather or local energy sources. Here's the kicker. Companies that are all in on remote work need to think about this stuff. They should consider how all this homeworking affects the planet, especially with the energy everyone's using at home. Maybe they could even help out with energy bills to make it more sustainable. It's all about finding that sweet spot where we can work comfortably from home without making Mother Earth frown. Waste footprint. Did you know that during the first lockdown, everyone suddenly became recycling champs? It's like, when we're at home, we're way better at sorting our trash. This lines up with what researchers have been saying for a while. People tend to be more eco-friendly with their waste at home compared to at work. It makes sense, right? When you have those handy recycling bins right there, it's easier to do your bit for the planet. So, with more folks working from home, our daily trash habits could be helping the environment. With all of us glued to our screens more than ever, there's this growing pile of electronic and electrical junk, or e-waste. We're talking about a whopping 50 million tons of this stuff every year around the globe, and get this, only 20% of it is getting recycled properly. So while we're facing the recycling game in some ways, there's still this huge e-waste challenge we need to tackle. Lower carbon footprint. Did you know that those big office buildings we see in cities are kind of energy hogs, even though they're getting better at saving power? Yeah, they use a ton of energy for things like keeping the lights on, heating up in the winter, and cooling down in the summer. And here's a fun fact. Buildings, including both our homes and those big office spaces, are responsible for about 40% of all the CO2 emissions in the US. That's a lot, right? But here's the interesting part. Running a whole big office building takes up way more energy than just heating, cooling, or lighting up a single house. So even though we're all worried about turning off lights at home, those giant office complexes are where the real energy action is. Now think about this. How does remote work influence your carbon footprint? Do you think the benefits outweigh the costs? Let us know in the comments after the video. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this content, hit that like button and subscribe for more insightful discussions. Reduced air pollution. Okay, so if we cut down on greenhouse gases, we'd be giving our air quality a major boost. It's like hitting a refresh button for the environment. And according to The Guardian, air pollution is a bigger villain than you might think. It's responsible for more deaths than HIV, AIDS, and malaria put together. Pretty shocking, right? Now, let's talk about the COVID-19 lockdowns. They did something pretty unexpected. The National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Service found out that with everyone staying home, the levels of nitrogen dioxide, NO2, in cities just plummeted. And why is this cool? Because better air quality is a game changer. Not only does it mean we get to breathe easier, but it also stops a bunch of nasty stuff. We're talking about things like acid rain, those nasty algal blooms in water, and even reducing that annoying haze. Plus, it helps put the brakes on ozone layer depletion and climate change. So yeah, cleaner air is a pretty big deal. Now, let's think about it a bit. How can companies make work from home more environmentally sustainable? Switching to remote work is like stepping into a whole new world, especially when it comes to being eco-friendly. Companies want to help their employees make sustainable choices, but nobody wants their boss peeking into their living room, right? It's a fine line because, after all, home is where you chill, not the office. Plus, lots of us working from home would need some help from our workplaces to make our home offices not just comfy, but green and sustainable too. It's all about finding that sweet spot where companies can nudge us towards being eco-friendly without getting too nosy. And here's the cool part. If companies get this right, it's a win-win. They can hit their green goals while we get to work in a space that's both easy on the planet and great for our well-being. Think of it as mixing business with eco-pleasure. But there are not only environmental benefits of working remotely. Let's look at some of the negative impacts of remote work on climate change. Higher energy consumption. So, when we talk about working from home, there's a big question. Does it actually lead to using less energy? It's a bit of a head-scratcher. On one hand, no more driving to work seems eco-friendly, but there's another side to it. Switching to remote work means our homes are now doubling as offices, and guess what? That tends to bump up our utility bills. That's not exactly a win for the environment. And then there's all our gadgets. We're talking about powering up everything from smartphones to laptops. While in the empty offices, everything is up and running for the employees who are expected there. It might not seem like a big deal when it's just you, but add up all the remote workers out there, and you've got a pretty hefty energy demand. What is the real deal about the environmental impact of working from home versus being at the office? It's like a complicated equation, considering all our tech needs and our roles as remote workers. Partial reduction of global carbon footprint. So, you've probably heard that some companies are now mixing things up with hybrid work models. This means people are working partly from home and partly in the office. It's like having a bit of both worlds. They still commute, but less often. This kind of setup can help chip away at our carbon footprint, though it's not a game changer on its own. When it comes to really fighting climate change, we're talking about needing some major policy shifts. Countries need to step up their game in sustainability and cutting down their carbon emissions. There's no magic wand to wave away the climate crisis, but hey, every little bit helps. And that includes this shift to remote work, which in its own small way is helping to ease the pressure on our planet. The shift to remote work has the potential to be a significant ally in our fight against climate change. But as with any major change, it comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities. What are your thoughts on the impact of remote work on climate change? How has remote work changed your daily life and your environmental footprint? Share your experiences and insights in the comments below. And remember, if you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content.